When you got a bunch of engine parts outside of an engine, you're not having a great day. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I've been showing you this Ranger in a few videos in the past. It's been broke down in here for a couple weeks, and finally decided I got to tear into this thing, and well, it's not going so great. So what happened with it, it was running fine, or as fine as this thing runs, and all of a sudden just shut off, locked up. Went to start it, won't even turn over. Kind of seemed like the starter went, but it's a brand new starter, so I knew that wasn't the case. It's just like locked under compression. When I pull the spark plug, it'll turn. So decided I had to tear into it. Why did I decide that I have to tear into it? Well, I'll tell you how it is, and maybe some of you can relate to this with equipment and machinery. This thing's 16 years old. It's no spring chicken. It's a good machine when it's running, but as soon as that engine locked up, the value of this thing, basically zero. I mean, nobody is going to pay you anything for a 16-year-old machine with a bad motor. So at that point, my hands are pretty tied. You take it to a dealer. What they charge you in labor, Polaris parts are extremely expensive. God forbid it needs a new motor. You're going to end up underwater quick. You're going to get more into it than this machine is worth. So it doesn't give you a whole lot of good options. I'm not one to really tear into motors. You've seen me do a lot of different stuff here. I've done it before. It's been many years since I've actually tore a motor as far as I'm into this one. I kind of know what I'm doing. With a service manual, I can follow along and I can do it. Is it my favorite job? No, absolutely not. But it's one of those things. It's either junk the machine or try to salvage something out of it. So don't necessarily want to buy a new one. I'm sure a lot of you folks know the price tag on a new one of these. It's pretty handy around the farm. I use it quite a bit. I use it to plow in the winter. So I don't necessarily want to lose it. Don't want to buy a new one, especially because I'm putting a bunch of money into that Kenworth truck you've been following along with, I'm sure. So bad timing. This stuff always comes bad timing. So I'm going to try my best to do something to resurrect this thing. So where I'm at now, I started on it yesterday a little bit, worked on it a little bit more this morning. I thought for sure, from my research I did before I tore into it, there's something with the camshaft. These machines, and I know most people don't really care, but so I found it interesting. They have this little ball on the camshaft that's a decompression ball that's supposed to, as it goes around, it just taps the exhaust valve a little bit and decompresses the cylinder. Don't ask me why. That's beyond my understanding of why you actually need that in a 4-stroke engine. But I thought to myself, well, this thing's stuck, like it's stuck under compression. I thought, well, that's got to be it. There's got to be something there with that cam, either, you know, something with the camshaft itself or that ball system. That all seems to check out fine to me, best I can tell by testing it. You know, with the specs in the manual, it looks like it's within spec. So it's not that. At least to my knowledge, the best I can see, it's not that. That's working fine. So I'm kind of down to thinking it's something with the valves now. So that means I got to pull the whole head, which I didn't want to do. But I think that's what's going to happen. I'm 90% of the way there already at this point. You just have to pop the head bolts and pull her off. We're getting in deep. So, but the way I look at it, I have a machine that's not running as it is, so I guess if you have a machine that's not running in a bunch of parts, what's the difference? So bear with me. This might be a video over a couple days here because I'm working on this little by little like I always do with everything. But let me just start wrenching here, and well, if nothing else, you're going to see what the inside of a Polaris Ranger engine looks like. Well, cylinder head came out with a bang, but she came out. Good news and bad news. Good news, the bore looks fine, no problems there, no problems with the piston, all looks to be intact. Cylinder head looks okay to the eye. The valves are all in one piece there. The bad news, I don't have a valve spring compression tool, so I can't pull these valves out yet. So I got to get one of them. So this is going to be sitting here a little bit till I track down one of them and get it here. I don't know. I almost think it has to be something with the valve train, one way or another. So I'm going to go through all of that, check all the valves, make sure there's nothing broken in there, something sticking or something. We're figuring this out together, kind of. But I'll be back in a few days with some update. I know this is probably not the most exciting video I ever did, but it's what I'm working on, so it's what you get to see. Well, I'm back at it a couple days later. Pulled the valves out. They look fine. I'm kind of perplexed. I thought for sure by now I'd find something broken, messed up. So I got to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more research, figure out what this could be. It's weird because it's like it's locked under compression, but yet there seems to be nothing that would be holding it up. Oh yeah, by the way. Hi! I got the two punks here. What are you doing, Luke? Are you being good? Yeah. It's the weekend. They're rolling around here on the floor, carrying on, playing with the lawn tractor, causing mischief. So I'll keep digging on this thing and I'll bring it back when I figure out what I got going on, if I figure out what I got going on. Are we still making this video about the Ranger? I've kind of even lost track of where I'm even at on this deal. It's been about 2.5 weeks since I was in here with the kids. You know how it goes. Just got tied up with too many different things, couldn't get back to it, and well, here I am. It's raining this afternoon, so I got rained out and decided to get back to this. Real head scratcher. So where I'm at, I took the valves out, checked them, everything's within spec, put it back together, the head's back together. Can't find a thing wrong with the head. Can't find a thing wrong with anything. I don't know. So I'm thinking, well, I'm thinking I might have jumped the gun a little bit. See, I was so sure from reading on the internet, because you know everything you read on the internet is the gospel, that I was going to have a cam problem with the symptoms I had, that it just was stuck under compression, that I probably should have backed up and started looking at a few things before I tore this motor apart. But this has a weird cam on it. It's got this decompression ball that apparently just as it goes around is supposed to just knock the exhaust valve open just a little bit to release compression. And I read online, because everybody online's an expert, that, you know, that was probably what it was. So I just went right into tearing this cam out, thinking, well, that's got to be the problem. Everything is within spec. Everything seems to be working right on it, so I don't know. So I'm maybe thinking, now if this is true, I'm going to feel like a complete idiot. I'm thinking it might be the starter. The starter's only a couple months old, and it turns fine with the spark plug out, obviously, when there's no compression on it, but it won't hardly turn, it just won't turn over with the spark plug in. So I don't know, could I just have a crappy starter? I mean, we all know that reman starters are pretty much junk, so I didn't really think about that, but could be a bad starter. Or another thing, I'll feel like an idiot, it just could be that the valves are out of spec, that I just have to adjust them, that something happened that they're just out of adjustment. So of course I didn't look at that, I just tore them right off and on we go. So I'm gonna put this back together, and we'll either be back to square one, or I'll catch something putting it back together, or when it's all back together I will test the starter and hopefully we can figure something out. So I got about an hour here till I have to leave. I'm gonna dig into this thing. I don't know if I'm gonna get it done today or not, but that's an update on where I'm at. Hopefully I don't come back to you in another 2.5 weeks, but we'll see what I get done. We'll see what we can figure out with this machine. So I got it all back together. I did put in a new head gasket, so you guys don't think I'm a complete hack. I'm not gonna put a motor back together with a used head gasket. It's all back together. So the only real change I made, I did adjust the valves. They needed some adjustment. So spark plug's out, as you can see. Turns nice and free with the spark plug out. I've got fuel, I've got spark, I've got air. Basically exactly where I was before I tore this whole motor apart. I'm gonna put the spark plug back in. We'll see what it does. Cross your fingers. Moment of truth. Spark plug's in. Battery's good. Just tested that. Battery's strong. That was brand new. Probably about the same time as the starter. I cycled this engine by hand. Valves are turning. They're opening. Everything looks good. This thing should start. There's no reason why it shouldn't start. Or at least rotate. If you remember, that was the whole problem. It was just locked under compression. So let's just see what happens here. It's trying to turn. I think I got a bad starter. Oh, I tore a whole motor apart because the starter's bad. What an idiot. I'm going to test it to be sure. Let this be a lesson to anybody out there. A lesson that I should know. A lesson I've taught myself many, many times. Always start with the simplest stuff. Don't ever take anything for granted. This starter is 6 months old. Shouldn't be bad. I've had enough junk starters in my life to know better. Oh, that's what I should have started with. It just didn't seem like the likely culprit, but I'm pretty sure based on what I just saw and heard that, yeah, that starter doesn't have the juice. Let me fiddle around a little bit more and then I'll come back and see how we wrap this up. So there's one more thing I'm going to try before I pull this starter. I'm at the point I'm 95% sure that's the problem. Sometimes when a starter's failing, if you give her a little juice and the old hammer trick, some of you know the old hammer trick. You can get her to fire off 1 or 2 more times. So I got my little battery charger here. I'm gonna put it on jump start mode and try to give her a little extra juice. Let's see if I can set the camera up here. Hammer trick. There's a dead spot in the starter. You can sometimes tap on it as you're cranking and she'll go. Let's see if that does anything for us. She's alive! It's a starter. Boy, I feel like an idiot. Oh man. So I guess I could just bury this and never show this video, but you know what? I'm not too proud to show you how things really go. You win some, you lose some. I was hoping this video would end in me taking you for a ride, but I don't trust taking this thing out right now, because if it stalls, I'm gonna be dead in the water somewhere. So I gotta pop this, put a new starter in. Parts these days are junk. 6 months out of a starter, and it wasn't a cheap one either. You know, you can get these super cheap ones off of Amazon or eBay. Those are complete junk. This was a Napa starter, I believe, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just need to buy a Polaris starter. Those are like $400. It's price of this stuff's insane. I don't gotta tell you guys. Prices of all parts are insane. ATV, UTV parts are always ridiculous. But I don't know. Maybe you get what you pay for. It's frustrating. This isn't the most fun starter to pull, but I get this pulled out. I'll get a new one ordered. We'll be riding around in another video, I guess. But I'm just happy it's not something with the motor. Wish I would have done a little bit more diagnosis before I dug into it, but you know, I'm sure you've all been there before too. This is the way it goes. Sometimes you jump to conclusions, you're in a hurry, and ends up costing you a lot more time in the long run. So she's running technically. I'll get a starter this week, and we'll get her back to work. Thanks for watching, guys. I know this was kind of a mixed up, mismatched video over the course of a couple weeks, but maybe you learned a trick or two from it. Who knows? Maybe you just learned that I'm an idiot. At either rate, I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.